One quiet evening, in an urban area in New Jersey, a woman who is in her 50s tiredly prepares what remains from her week-old bread loaf. Though she has already removed some specks of mold around its edges, the roughened surface with arrays of cracks resembling a dry, parched landscape makes it difficult to swallow. The bread seems to replicate the once vibrant house that the owner had spent her whole life building before it turned into its weathered facade. Front yard is overgrown with tall, unkempt grass and scattered debris, remnants of a long-forgotten past. Rusty, sagging chain link protects the property from intruders, while the gates creak ominously with every gust of wind. A broken porch light dangles precariously by its wires, swaying gently, casting erratic shadows against the walls. The steps leading to the front door are cracked and uneven, each one a potential trap for the unwary. Inside, the wooden floorboards groan underfoot, their once polished surfaces now marred by deep scratches and stains. Cobwebs drape like tattered curtains from the ceiling corners, and the flickering light from a nearby street lamp barely penetrates the oppressive gloom. Still, the woman, Dory, has not made a sound. Her face remains emotionless as her dull eyes stare blankly at her dinner. She dips her bread into a cup of water to soften it before finally putting it in her mouth. Moments later, she trudges to her bedroom, ready to retire for the day. Against one wall stands an old four-poster bed, its once elegant frame now chipped and faded. The canopy, once rich and luxurious, sags under the weight of years. Its fabric is torn and discolored. The mattress, lumpy and misshapen, is covered with a threadbare quilt that bears the unmistakable signs of age. Frayed edges, faded colors, and small holes scattered throughout. As you move closer, the fabric emits a faint crackling sound, as if it's on the verge of disintegration. As she stares at the ceiling, she can't help but recall her prime years. The bitterness creeps in slowly but strongly. It has been decades, but the pain never fades. If there's anything, it only intensifies, especially now that she is nearing her life's journey. What have I done wrong? I did everything I could. How? Why? Dory mumbles to herself until she succumbs to her exhaustion, while the rain begins to patter on the roof. The next morning, she drags her feet out of the house to begin another effort to make both ends meet, which she has long understood as an impossible feat, making her regret a life decision she made, not going to college. In her youth, Dory was a beacon of positivity, her warm smile like a sunrise, casting its golden glow on everyone she met. People were naturally drawn to her, finding comfort and joy in her presence. She had a way of making others feel seen and valued, whether it was through a kind word, a shared joke, or a simple act of kindness. Her friends often said that her heart was as big as her dreams, always open and welcoming. But what truly set Dory apart was her courage. She faced challenges head-on, with a fierce determination that inspired those around her. Whether it was standing up against injustice, defending a friend in need, or tackling a difficult project, she never backed down. Her courage was a quiet strength, not boastful or loud, but steady and unwavering like the roots of an ancient oak tree grounding her firmly. In her last year in high school, Dory sat at her desk, a cluttered oasis of creativity in her small bedroom, the walls plastered with vision boards, sketches, and motivational quotes. Her bright eyes, always shimmering with determination, scanned over her latest business plan, spread out before her. Every morning, Dory woke up with the sunrise, the golden rays filtering through her blinds, casting a warm glow on her entrepreneurial sanctuary. She bypassed the traditional path that many of her peers were taking, the route to college that seemed so standard, yet distant from her aspirations. Her heart beat to the rhythm of innovation and ambition, driving her to pour every ounce of energy into her startup. Despite the occasional raised eyebrows and unsolicited advice about the importance of a college degree, her resolve never wavered. She was fueled by a deep-seated belief in her vision and the tangible, enthusiastic support of those around her. Her best friend, Maria, would often stay late, helping her perfect pitches and refine her marketing strategies. Her uncle, a successful entrepreneur himself, became her mentor, offering wisdom and guidance while always respecting her choices. Every step Dory took toward her dream was surrounded by a symphony of encouragement and faith. She wore her passion like a badge of honor, boldly stepping into the unknown with the backing of her army of supporters. The path she chose was not the well-trodden one, but it was uniquely hers, lit by the unwavering support and love of those who believed in her. In her late 20s, she stood in the middle of her bustling restaurant, Dory's Delight, a place that had become a local sensation. The restaurant thrived with the constant hum of chatter, the clinking of glasses, and the aromatic symphony of gourmet dishes being prepared in the kitchen. The walls, adorned with photos of her journey and autographs from satisfied customers, told the story of her rise from a passionate teenager to a successful entrepreneur. Outside, her sleek cars parked neatly in her driveway reflected the soft glow of the evening sun. Her beautiful home, a 2-story modern marvel with large windows and a lush garden, was a testament to her hard work and dedication. Dory's life was the epitome of success, a dream realized through relentless effort and unwavering support from her loved ones. Every morning, she would walk into her restaurant, greeted by the familiar faces of her loyal staff, their smiles echoing the pride they felt working for her. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods would fill the air, mingling with the fresh flowers that decorated each table. Dory moved through her space with ease and grace, a seasoned professional who had found her calling. However, as time went on, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The economy began to wobble, and the tremors of a financial crisis rippled through the city. The region was hit by a harsh recession, and the familiar faces that once filled her tables grew fewer and farther between. New competitors sprang up around the city, sleek establishments backed by investors with deep pockets and owners with degrees from prestigious culinary schools. These new restaurateurs brought not only cutting-edge culinary techniques, but also sophisticated marketing strategies and powerful business networks. Their establishments were chic and modern, their menus innovative and varied, and their marketing campaigns were omnipresent on social media. Dory, with her practical skills and heartfelt dedication, found herself struggling to keep pace. The bustling crowds thinned, and the once vibrant energy of her dining room faded into a somber quiet. She tried to adapt, hosting special events, offering discounts, and even introducing new dishes, but her efforts were like patching a leaking boat in a storm. The competition's comprehensive approach, combining education, business connections, and practical experience, proved too formidable. Slowly, the signs of decline became unmistakable. The cheerful paint on the restaurant's exterior began to peel, and the vibrant flowers that once bloomed by the entrance withered away. Inside, tables remained empty, their checkered tablecloths gathering dust. The rich, savory aroma of her famous chowder no longer filled the air, replaced by an emptiness that echoed through the hollow space. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Dory would stand by the window, her heart heavy with the realization that her beloved restaurant was slipping away. The memories of a bustling dining room, the hum of conversation, and the joy of serving her community became distant echoes, overshadowed by the harsh reality of an empty establishment. Dory's practical business skills, while invaluable, were not enough to weather the storm. She lacked the holistic arsenal that her competitors wielded so effectively. Without the educational background, the strategic business connections, and the broad-based experience that her rivals possessed, Dory's delight was left vulnerable to the economic downturn. One somber evening, as the last rays of sunlight cast long shadows across the empty tables, Dory locked the doors for what she knew would be the final time. The wooden sign, now creaking in the wind, seemed to whisper a mournful farewell. Dory stood outside, the keys to her beloved restaurant clutched in her hand, her heart heavy with loss. Her home, her cars, her financial stability, all seemed to mock her previous success, now overshadowed by the weight of an economic downturn she couldn't control. As she drove away from the empty building, the city's lights blurred in her teary eyes. The success she had worked so tirelessly to achieve felt like a distant dream, evaporating in the harsh light of reality. The vivid dream about the past ends as Dory's eyes flutter open due to the roaring rain that pounds against her bedroom window, the sound of a relentless drumbeat that pulls her from her nightmare. She lies there for a moment, the cold light of a grey morning seeping into the room, mingling with the rhythmic tap of raindrops. The storm outside mirrors the tempest that has long raged in her heart, a constant reminder of the dreams that once were. She sits up slowly and gazes out at the bleak, rain-soaked world beyond the window. The memories rush back with the force of the storm, decades folding into moments as she recalls the last time she saw the doors of Dory's Delight close behind her. Back then, the restaurant was her sanctuary, a place alive with laughter and light. She can still picture it vividly. The vibrant chatter of customers filling the air, the warm glow of the lamps casting a cozy ambience over the polished wooden tables, and the mouth-watering aroma of her carefully crafted dishes wafting from the kitchen. But now, as she looks out into the rain, all those memories feel like another lifetime. The years had not been kind to her. The closure of her restaurant had marked the beginning of a downward spiral that she had never managed to escape. She had sunk into a deep depression, a shadow that followed her relentlessly, despite countless therapy sessions that drained her remaining savings without offering any relief. The diagnosis of major depression had felt like a prison sentence, one from which she could find no escape. Her parents, once her greatest supporters, had passed away, their health failing with age. Dory had been too lost in her despair to fully grasp their decline until it was too late. The weight of guilt pressed heavily on her heart, a constant reminder of the people she had failed. Friends, too, had drifted away, their lives moving forward while Dory remained trapped in her purgatory. Isolation had become her closest companion, anxiety and despair her constant tormentors. Despite her mental health condition, she desperately needed to put food on her table, forcing her to go out and look for jobs. Dory stood at the edge of the bustling city street, her eyes scanning the windows of shops and offices, their signs blaring, "Help wanted" and "Now hiring." It was a scene she had grown all too familiar with. Clutching her worn-out purse, she sighed deeply, feeling the weight of the day settle into her bones. From then on, she had become a drifter in the world of work, jumping from one mediocre job to another, each position a brief stop in an endless journey. The lack of a college degree loomed over her like a shadow, an insurmountable barrier in a world where qualifications often outweighed experience. Employers would glance at her resume, noting the absence of formal education, and politely but firmly steer her towards the door. The competition was fierce, with younger, more credentialed applicants vying for the same positions. Each rejection felt like another nail in the coffin of her dreams. She found herself doing odd jobs, cleaning offices at night, working as a sales clerk in a thrift store, and answering phones for a telemarketing company. Each job was a lifeline, a means to an end, but none offered stability or fulfillment. She utilized whatever skills she had, adapting to each new role with a resilience born of necessity, but the constant flux took its toll. Now, at 50, Dory works part-time as a waitress in a small diner, a far cry from the vibrant life she once led. She moves through her shifts with mechanical precision, her mind often wandering back to the days when she had been the heart and soul of her own establishment. Her evenings are spent collecting trash around the neighborhood, an extra source of income to make ends meet. Being a scrapper is dirty and thankless, but it provides a meager supplement to her wages. The ticking of the clock on the wall is a stark reminder of the time that had slipped through her fingers. The world outside continues to move forward, but for Dory, it feels as if time has stood still. The isolation, the anxiety, and the despair have built walls around her, separating her from the life she once knew. She lives day by day, finding solace in small routines and fleeting moments of peace. And just like that, 2 decades have passed, leaving her in a perpetual state of waiting for a change that seems ever elusive, for a light to pierce through the darkness that had enveloped her heart. Dory rises and moves to the kitchen, her steps slow and measured. She makes herself a cup of tea, the steam rising from the mug-like wisps of the past, curling and fading into the air. She stands by the window, the rain blurring the world outside, making it hard to distinguish where the sky ends and the earth begins. It's as if the storm is trying to wash away the pain and loss, but the ache in her heart remains, steadfast and unyielding. Suddenly, a gust of desperation swells within Dory, compelling her to action without any particular reason. Her eyes, which moments before were clouded with reflection, now sparkle with a newfound resolve. She sets her mug down on the kitchen counter, the gentle clink echoing in the silent room, and strides purposefully to the door. As she pulls on her raincoat, the fabric rustles, a prelude to the adventure that lies beyond her front door. She takes a deep breath, feeling the cool air rush into her lungs, and steps out into the storm. The rain immediately pelts her face, sharp and cold, but Dory doesn't flinch. Instead, she embraces the sensation, the sting of the rain invigorating her with each drop. The sky is a swirling mass of dark clouds, the wind howling as it whips through the trees. Puddles form quickly on the pavement, splashing up around her feet as she walks. The distant rumble of thunder underscores the fierce determination in her heart. She moves with purpose, each step defiance against the weather, against the past, against the lingering shadows of doubt. The streets, usually bustling, are now deserted, the cityscape blurred by the sheets of rain. But Dory's vision is clear. She heads towards the old part of town, where her beloved Dory's Delight once stood. As she approaches, the familiar silhouette of the building comes into view, its facade worn by time but still standing, much like herself. Dory moves purposefully through the storm, her umbrella barely shielding her from the relentless rain. The wind whips at her coat, and the cold bits at her cheeks. She is driven by an unexplainable urge to step out into the tempest, as if something awaits her in the chaos. A few blocks from her destination, a flicker of movement catches Dory's eye. She turns and sees, at the corner of a deserted street, a small figure huddled against the cold. The child is crouching beneath a feeble shelter of cardboard, his tiny body trembling violently from the cold and wet. The child's clothes were soaked through, clinging to his frail frame, and his breath came in visible puffs of mist. His brown eyes, wide and fearful, meet Dory's grey ones. And for a moment, time seems to stand still. The world around them, filled with the roar of rain and the howl of the wind, fades into the background. Dory's heart aches at the sight. She hurries over, her boots splashing through the growing puddles. Kneeling beside the child, she can see the sheer desperation in his eyes. Without hesitation, she takes off her coat and wraps it around the shivering figure, the warmth of the fabric a stark contrast to the biting cold. "Hey there, it's okay," Dory said softly, her voice gentle against the harsh backdrop of the storm. "What are you doing out here alone?" The child looks up at her, eyes wide and teary. I got lost," he stammers. His voice was barely a whisper, carried away by the wind. Dory's smile is warm, her heart pounding with a renewed sense of purpose. "Don't worry, I'm here now. Let's get you somewhere safe and warm." She offers her hand, and the child takes it, the small fingers cold and fragile. "Thank you," the child whispers, his voice trembling with a mixture of relief and gratitude. The storm rages on as Dory leads the boy down the slick, rain-soaked streets. Eventually they arrived at her dilapidated home. "Here we are," Dory says, opening the creaky door. The boy hesitated on the threshold, glancing around with a hint of worry. "Are we safe here?" he asks, his voice small and uncertain. Dory smiles warmly. "Yes, we're safe. It might not look like much, but it's home. Come on in." She gently guides him inside, where the interior, though shabby, is clean and cozy. She quickly lights a few candles, their soft glow casting comforting shadows on the walls. "Let's get you out of those wet clothes," Dory says, rummaging through an old trunk. She finds a pair of pajamas and hands them to the boy. "These might be a bit big, but they'll be warm and dry. You can change in the bathroom right there." While the boy changes, Dory heats some milk on the stove, the warmth filling the small kitchen. The sound of rain drumming on the roof and the hiss of the stove combine to create a strangely soothing atmosphere. She pours the milk into 2 mugs and adds a dash of cinnamon. The boy emerges from the bathroom, the oversized pajamas hanging loosely on his small frame. Dory hands him a mug, the steam curling upwards. "Here, this will warm you up." They sit at the small, worn table, the boy cupping the mug with both hands, savouring the heat. "What's your name?" Dory asks gently. "Ralph," he replies, taking a tentative sip of the milk. His eyes darted around the room, avoiding her gaze. "Ralph? Why were you outside in such weather?" Dory probes softly. I got lost," Ralph says, but he immediately looks away, the words lacking conviction. Dory frowns slightly but keeps her tone gentle. "Where were you headed?" "Nowhere," Ralph mumbles, focusing on his mug. I needed to get away." Dory's heart aches at the sight of him, a child so small and fragile, burdened with such weight. When she was her age, she was showered with love and affection, not only from her family but also from friends and classmates. "Ralph, you don't have to run away. There's always another way. Do you have someone you can call? Parents? Family?" Ralph shakes his head, tears welling up in his eyes. "No, I can't go back." Dory reaches across the table and takes his hand, her touch light and reassuring. "You're safe here, Ralph. We'll figure something out together, okay?" Ralph nods, his grip on the mug tightening. "Okay," he whispers, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Dory stands in her small, dimly lit kitchen, the warmth of the tea mugs mingling with the soft glow of the candles she had lit. Ralph, the young boy she had found huddled against the cold, sits across from her, clutching the oversized pajamas she had given him. His small frame seems even smaller in the flickering light, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and relief. Dory's heart aches as she looks at him. She knows something is wrong for him to run away so desperately. His answers had been evasive, his gaze constantly shifting, avoiding her eyes. She had seen enough in her 50 years to recognize a child in distress. "Ralph," she begins gently, breaking the silence that had settled between them. "I want to help you, but you need to know something." Ralph looks up at her, his eyes reflecting the dancing candle flames. "What?" he asks, his voice barely a whisper. Dory takes a deep breath, her resolve strengthening. "By law, I have to report this to the authorities. It's the right thing to do to ensure your safety." Ralph's face falls, fear and panic flashing in his eyes. "No, please," he pleads, his voice trembling. "Don't make me go back." Dory reaches out and takes his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "I promise, I'll explain everything to them tomorrow, but I can't take you in, especially with the circumstances I'm in." Ralph looks around the dilapidated room, the peeling wallpaper and sagging ceiling a stark contrast to any sense of security. "What will happen to me? I'll make sure they understand," Dory says softly. "I'll be right there with you. They need to know what's going on, and we'll find a solution together." As she speaks, she can feel the weight of her own struggles pressing down on her. Her home, once filled with laughter and warmth, is now a shadow of its former self, much like her dreams. But despite her own hardships, she knows she can't ignore the desperate need in Ralph's eyes. "I know you're scared," she continues, her voice steady, "but running away isn't the answer. We'll get through this, one step at a time." Ralph nods slowly, the fear in his eyes giving way to a glimmer of hope. "Okay," he whispered, "but you'll stay with me." Dory squeezes his hand gently. "I'll stay with you," she promises. The sun is just peeking over the horizon as Dory dials the number for the police. Her fingers tremble slightly as she holds the phone to her ear. A voice answers on the other end. 911, what's your emergency? Dory takes a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "Hello, this is Dory Mackenzie. I need to report an incident involving a child. I found him yesterday and I believe he's in a very bad situation at home." Later that morning, the authorities arrived at her doorstep. She ushers them in, her eyes heavy with concern. Ralph, the small, fragile boy of 7, stands nervously in the corner, clutching the blanket he got from Dory. A kind-eyed officer kneels in front of Ralph. "Hey there, buddy. We're here to help. Can you come with us?" Ralph's eyes dart to Dory, fear and desperation written across his face. "Please," he whispers, his voice barely audible. "Don't make me go. Let me stay with you." Dory's heart shatters at the sight of his pleading eyes. She kneels down, wrapping her arms around him in a tight hug. "Ralph, I wish I could keep you, but I can't. The police will take good care of you and they'll make sure you're safe." Ralph's small body shakes with sobs as he clings to her. "Please don't let them take me. I'll be good, I promise." Tears stream down Dory's cheeks. She brushes a strand of hair from his face and looks into his eyes. "I know you will, sweetheart, but right now this is the best way to keep you safe. The police will help you, I promise." Ralph's grip tightens for a moment before he slowly lets go. His eyes are red and swollen from crying. He turns to the officer, his shoulders slumped in defeat. As the police lead Ralph away, he glances back one last time. "Will I see you again?" he asks, his voice quivering. Dory forces a smile, though her heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. "We will meet again, Ralph. Be brave." She exchanges knowing glances with the officer, and the man nods in return. The door closes behind them, and Dory stands in the empty room, her heart aching with a profound sense of loss. She remembers the days of her youth, when she was deeply loved and cherished. The pain she feels for Ralph is almost unbearable, knowing he had been deprived of that same love. As the day turns into evening, Dory sits by the window, staring out at the darkening sky. She whispers a silent prayer for Ralph, hoping that wherever he goes, he will find the love and care he so desperately needed. Days pass by, but Dory remains unsettled. Ralph's desperate brown eyes, glued to her until the last moment, haunts her thoughts. His plea and her empty promise gnaws at her soul. She stands in the doorway of her tiny kitchen, staring at the chipped countertops. The weight of her reality presses down on her. She was struggling to make ends meet, barely scraping by. How could she take in another mouth to feed? But Ralph's eyes, so full of hope and fear, wouldn't let her rest. She sinks into a rickety chair, her hands trembling. For so long she has avoided asking herself the question that now echoed in her mind. It was a question buried beneath layers of disappointment and the trauma of past failures. Will I let this be the end? Tears wells up and spills over, running down her cheeks. She wipes them away with the back of her hand, her gaze hardening with determination. "No," she whispers fiercely, while staring at nothing in particular. "I will not let this be the end," she declares. Pictures of her struggles flash through her mind, her downfall, her job hunting cycle, her current miserable state. Ironically, these become her driving force to finally make a change. Dory stands up, feeling a surge of resolve that she hasn't felt in years. She thinks of Ralph, his vulnerable face, and his desperate plea. She can't change the past, but she can shape the future. She may be past her prime, but she has experience. She has passion, and now she dares to fight against her wicked fate. Dory goes around the neighborhood to scan for her once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After a few days of talking with people, reading newspapers, and searching every poster she finds useful, she finally notices a small poster on the community board that is discreetly hiding behind some new and colorful ads. With her hands shaking, she reads the paper and discovers that there is a non-profit organization in the city that offers scholarships for people like her. She rushes to a phone booth and picks up the device, her fingers no longer trembling. With renewed determination, she dials the number and inquires if she is eligible for the program. It is time to begin again. As the phone rings, she takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what is to come. She will get an education. She will find a way to provide a better life, not just for herself, but for Ralph and for the promise she made to him. Her heart pounds with a mix of fear and excitement. When the voice on the other end answers, she feels a spark of hope ignite within her. "Hello, this is Dory Mackenzie," she says, her voice steady and strong. "I'd like to inquire about the qualifications for the associate degree scholarship you're offering." With that, she takes her first step toward a new beginning. Her house, once a symbol of what she had become, now feels like a place of potential. Dory knows the road ahead will be difficult, but for the first time in a long time, she believes in her ability to change her miserable fate. And as she hangs up the phone, she whispers to herself, "I will fulfill my promise, Ralph." Weeks later, Dory sits in the front row of her entrepreneurship class for her associate degree in business administration, her notepad filled with meticulous notes. Every lesson is a lifeline, a beacon guiding her through the uncertainty. Each day brings new challenges, but Dory is determined to succeed. 2 years is nothing compared to the 2 decades of misery. One evening, as she wrestles with a particularly difficult lesson, she sighs heavily. The numbers blur before her eyes. "Why is this so hard?" she mutters, frustration evident in her voice. Her study partner, a younger student named Mia, looks over sympathetically. "You're doing great, Dory. Remember, it's all about persistence." Dory smiles weakly. "I know, but sometimes it feels like I'm running uphill with no end in sight." Mia pats her hand. "You've got this. Just take it one step at a time." Her resolve is tested every day. Between juggling her part-time job, classes and studying, there are moments when she wonders if she has made a mistake. One particularly rough week, Dory finds herself standing in front of her mirror, questioning her choices. "Can I really do this?" she whispers to her reflection. The mirror offers no answers, only her tired grey eyes staring back at her. But then she remembers Ralph, his desperate brown eyes and his plea for help. She has made a promise to herself and him. She can't give up. Slowly but surely, the pieces begin to fall into place. Each concept in college is a tool, a weapon she could wield in her fight to build a successful business. Finally, graduation arrives, a milestone Dory has dreamed of for years. Clad in a cap and gown, she stands among her classmates, a mix of pride and disbelief washing over her. Her heart swells with gratitude and determination. With her degree in hand, Dory knows the real challenge is just beginning. Starting a business is no small feat, especially in a competitive market, but she is ready. She musters everything she has learned in school and her practical business experience to build connections, find suppliers, and complete the legalities to convert parts of her home into her new cafe, Brew Haven. One bright morning, she sits at her kitchen table, now her makeshift office, surrounded by her new recipe for her cafe. Her front yard, once covered by overgrown grass, has been converted into an alfresco dining area. The scent of lavender and honey fills the air, soothing her nerves. One evening, as she struggles to manage a particularly disgruntled customer's complaint, she receives a call from Ralph. The clever boy has managed to convince the orphanage staff to let him stay connected with Dory throughout the years. "Hey Dory, how's it going?" She sighs, the weight of the day pressing down on her. "It's tough, Ralph. Some days I wonder if I'm cut out for this." "You are," he says firmly. "Remember how you fought the storm to save me? You're that tough. You can do it." His words are a balm to her weary spirit. She takes a deep breath and resolves to push through. She adjusts her business strategy, leveraging the knowledge she had gained in her courses. She fine-tuned her marketing campaigns, engaged more with her customers, and sought feedback to improve her products and services. Slowly, but surely, her Brew Haven begins to gain traction. Her hard work is paying off. The positive reviews start pouring in, and repeat customers become the backbone of her growing business. One sunny afternoon, as she watches a customer walk away after having a pleasant meal, she feels a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey has been long and arduous, but every struggle, every late-night study session, and every moment of doubt has led her here. She reflects on her journey. The weeks have turned into months, and the months into years, but she has done it. Armed with experience, optimism, courage, and newfound knowledge, she is ready to thrive in a highly competitive business world. The morning sun casts a golden glow over the quaint orphanage as Dory approaches, her heart pounding with anticipation. She clutches a folder tightly in her hands, filled with all the documents needed to fulfill her mission. The time has come to keep her promise to the owner of those desperate brown eyes that had changed the course of her life. As she enters the orphanage, she is greeted warmly by the staff, who recognize her as the familiar figure who tirelessly visits Ralph all these years. But today is different. Today she stands before them not as a guest, but as an eligible prospective adoptive parent. "Good morning, Ms. Mackenzie," one of the staff members greets with a smile. "It's lovely to see you again. How can we assist you today?" Dory returns the smile, though her nerves are palpable. "Good morning. I'm here to see Ralph. I have all the necessary paperwork. I'm ready to begin the adoption process." The staff members exchange knowing glances, their eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and empathy. They have witnessed Dory's unwavering dedication to Ralph over the years, and now they share in her hope for a brighter future. After a brief wait, Dory is led to a cozy room where Ralph sits, engrossed in a book. His face lights up with surprise and joy as he sees her enter. "Dory!" he exclaims, jumping up from his seat and rushing to hug her. "I didn't know you were coming today." Dory hugs him back tightly, her heart overflowing with love. "I have some exciting news, Ralph," she says, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm here to talk to you about something very special. As Ralph listens intently, Dory explains her plans to adopt him and become his forever family. Tears well up in her eyes as she speaks, the weight of the moment nearly overwhelming her. Ralph's eyes widen in disbelief, then fills with tears of his own. You mean, you want to adopt me? He whispered, hardly daring to believe it. Dory nods, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Ralph, with all my heart. When Ralph first heard of Dory's promise, he knew it was a lie. Despite his age, he had learned to read people in order to protect himself. Knowing that the woman lied to him, he still has been desperately waiting all of these years for this promise to come true. And finally, it did. At that moment, the room seems to fill with an indescribable warmth, as if the universe itself was celebrating this incredible bond between them. The staff members watch from the doorway, their eyes shining with tears of joy. After completing all the legalities, the mother and son finally leave the orphanage hand in hand. As Dory and Ralph step through the threshold of their home, a wave of emotions sweeps over them both. For Ralph, it had been years since he had seen this place, and the transformation leaves him in awe. The once empty rooms are now filled with warmth and colour, each corner carefully curated to create a sanctuary of love and belonging. Ralph wanders through the house, his eyes wide with wonder. Wow, he breathes, taking in the sight of the cosy living room and the inviting kitchen. It's so different. Dory smiles, her heart swelling with pride. Yes, it is, she agrees, joining him in the living room. But it's all thanks to you, Ralph. You gave me hope when I had none, and you gave me a reason to live again. Ralph's eyes fill with tears at her words. But I didn't do anything, he protests softly. You're the one who saved me. Dory shakes her head, kneeling down to his level and taking his hands in hers. No, Ralph. We saved each other. You showed me that life is worth living even when it feels impossible. And now, because of you, we have this beautiful home, and we have each other. As they sit together in the glow of the afternoon sun, Dory wraps her arms around her son, holding him close. This is just the beginning, my son, she whispers, her voice filled with emotion. We have so much to look forward to, and I promise to be there for you every step of the way. In the quiet moments of their shared home, Ralph sits in awe, scarcely able to believe the whirlwind of events that had brought him to this place. For so long, his childhood had been shrouded in darkness, a storm he never thought he'd emerge from. But now, as he looks around at the warmth and love surrounding him, he realizes that the journey has led him to the family he has always wished for. Mom, he whispers, his voice trembling with emotion. I can't believe all of this is happening. You've given me everything I've ever wanted. Dory smiles through her own tears, her heart overflowing with love. And you, Ralph, have given me something I never thought I'd have again. A son. I promise to be the best mother I can be, to support you and love you with all my heart. Ralph's eyes gleam with gratitude as he reaches out to take her hand. And I promise to be the best son you could ever ask for. I'll help with the business. I'll do whatever it takes to make you proud. Dory's heart swells with pride as she looks into Ralph's earnest eyes. You already make me proud, Ralph, but remember, being a family means supporting each other and lifting each other. I'll give you everything you need to grow and thrive: love, support, resources, and education. Ralph nods, a sense of determination shining in his eyes. I know, Mom, and I'll never take any of it for granted. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And in that moment, surrounded by love and possibility, Dory and Ralph make a silent vow to each other. They will face whatever challenges come their way with strength and resilience, knowing that together they can weather any storm. In the tranquil sanctuary of their cozy home, they sit side by side. The room is bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, casting long shadows across the walls and filling the air with a warm golden light. Outside, the world seems to hold its breath, as if waiting with bated anticipation for the dawn of a new day. They can almost taste the sweetness of the dreams that lay just beyond the horizon, ripe and waiting to be plucked. In that moment, surrounded by the comforting embrace of their newfound family, Dory and Ralph feel a sense of peace wash over them. It is a peace born of resilience, of overcoming obstacles and weathering storms. They had faced darkness and emerged on the other side, stronger and more united than ever before. Their hearts are full of hope, a flame that burns bright and fierce within them, illuminating the path ahead. No matter what trials lay in store, they firmly believe that they will face them together, drawing strength from each other and from the unwavering love that bound them as family. They will seize each moment, each opportunity, with both hands, knowing that together they could conquer anything that came their way. And as they lean into each other, embracing a promise of unwavering support, they know that their love would light the way through even the darkest of nights. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting the world in a tapestry of gold and pink hues, Dory and Ralph close their eyes and let themselves be carried away on the gentle tide of possibility. For in that moment, they are invincible. Their love as a family, a beacon of hope in a world that sometimes seems dark and uncertain.